This is something that we don't have a good answer for yet, but it's definitely a question that we're interested in. So in lab experiments, we've found that when people form impressions of agents based on observing decisions that those agents make, which can be more sort of harmful or helpful type decisions, we find people form very quickly impressions of the moral character of these agents. So it's very easy for people to learn who's a good guy and who's a bad guy, and of course this is consistent with decades of research in social psychology. What we found that's new is that the beliefs about the moral character of bad agents are more uncertain and more flexible than the beliefs about good agents. So if you learn that somebody is pretty good and trustworthy, you kind of park that belief and you don't update it as quickly as you update your beliefs about someone you think might be bad. And this makes sense because people often behave in ways that are harmful by mistake. So if you accidentally form an impression of somebody that's bad, but that turns out to be wrong, you need to be able to update that belief in order to sort of carry on with social life. And of course, if you start to form an impression of somebody who's bad and they actually turn out to be worse than you thought, you also really want to be able to update in the bad direction as well. It's a totally open question whether these impression formation processes follow the same type of pattern for judgment of people's behavior online. One idea that we might test at some point is that a lot of interactions that take place on social media platforms are maybe less nuanced or less rich than the kinds of interactions we have offline. So you don't see someone's face, you see an avatar. You don't hear their tone of voice, you're just looking at a few lines of text that they've written. So it's a really fascinating question how this would affect our beliefs about the character of others. On the one hand, because the information is so sparse, then maybe our impressions would be much more uncertain. But on the other hand, because the algorithms that determine what information we see on social media are selecting for content that's really emotional or really extreme, content that's going to drive engagement, then maybe the information that we're seeing about other people is not necessarily representative of their behavior as a whole. And if it's more extreme, then that might lead to more kind of rigid impressions of other people. So I don't know the answer, but it's a really, really interesting question.